Welcome to the Key to Growth podcast, Home Services Marketing Unlocked, with me, your host, Jen McKee. Every week, I sit down with top marketers in the trades, from the brains behind $100 million companies to those scaling from 1 to 3, even to 10 million, breaking down exactly how they got where they are and uncover the secret to their success. If you're ready to grow your business and get real, actionable insights, you are in the right place. Let's unlock the key to your marketing success starting now.
Welcome back to the Key to Growth podcast. I'm your host, Jen McKee. You guys are in for a treat today. My guest today, I actually met a few years ago. And the reason we started talking is because he realized that we had a mutual client. And the work that they do for this mutual client is just incredible. We'll get into that. But I would like to introduce you all to Ryan Chute. Ryan, why don't you tell them who you are in case they don't know?
Hello, I'm Ryan Chute, partner at Wizardry, and I'm a strategist and matchmaker for the home service industry. Chosen to focus in on home services as my favorite go-to client base, and we're here to help people out and grow in their business, turn them from a regular brand or business into a household name.
It's a name people can't stop talking about or thinking about, or it's just running through their brain.
Whether you like it or not.
Right. So before we get too deep, how did you become a partner at Wizard of Ads? What was your first interaction and you were like, I have to do this. This is something that is deep within me, or tell us the beginning.
Yeah, well, it started off many years ago. My dad bought me the trilogy that Roy Williams had written, and he was introduced to it by his radio executives at the time. We ran a furniture store back in the day, and I followed him on Monday Morning Memo, which was the versionings of a blog post a week every week for the last 35 years or so. He's been doing it pre-internet. He did it on fax.
Right.
So funny story, when you have a fax machine, like one of the old ugly ones with the heat pressed paper and stuff.
Yeah.
If you send out something longer than a certain amount, it goes into 2 pages. Well, every page is 25 cents, and 25 cents 30 years ago was a lot of money. It was
Right.
You could buy a Kia with it nowadays. And so he didn't want to pay 50 cents for the 6,000 people he was sending this fax out to. So he didn't. He would get really good at writing short blog posts that
Yeah.
would fit on fax, or a fax post. You call it a fax post? I don't know. Those turned into the books with a brilliant publisher named Ray Baird, who has had 17 of his 35 books or something like that become New York Times bestsellers. They're just showstopper of the books. Well, I was reading those. They're really easy to read, and they're the inspiration around how to communicate better in advertising and all of those things. Well, I'm reading his Monday Morning Memo, and he's saying, I think I'm going to step back a little bit. So let's go to the Wizard Academy and see this guy live. In 2015, I did, and it changed my life. The class is called Magical Worlds. It still goes today. It's the cornerstone course of the Academy in Austin, Texas, where I am right now. And it has you look at advertising, communication, marketing, culture so diametrically different than how I grew up, which was hardcore transactional, in the grind, in the fight, in the performance marketing, in the performance sales, and you had to produce and you had to have results to continue existing. And I've come to learn that absolutely performance needs to be measured and sought after, but there's way better ways to do marketing.
Yeah.
And in 2017, I became a partner.
I love that. And so one thing I just want to point out from the beginning of that story is he used to have to pay money to get in front of his audience. And we have so many ways to get in front of people for free, which is crazy. And such a advantage that people didn't have back then. So I think that's really interesting. But so I started off talking about our mutual client, and you kind of touched on it. But as much as people know who Wizard of Ads are, I think there's a lot of people who don't. So what do you do just from a really logistical standpoint? But then what do you actually do? That makes sense.
It's a perfect question because, so many people wonder, what the heck do you actually do? Well, marketing isn't, whatever channel you're buying. That's production work. That's somebody selling you a channel. We're not married to channels. So we love social media. We love Google. We love all of the channels for getting you the marketing that you need. We also love traditional marketing because we know the stats, and we study the stats every single year. Twice a year, we get a rundown of how many people still listen to the radio, how many people still watch broadcast and cable TV and streaming and OTT and all of the other digital assets that go along with. And our job is to come up with a strategy first, right? To figure out what assets do you have at your disposal? What things do you do that other companies aren't willing to do? How do you stand out? And really build a creative strategy around the excellent work that good operators already do. One of our cheats is that we work with good operators, and sometimes we find out too late that they're not that great, and sometimes we find they're a little too twitchy for their britches, and sometimes sometimes we continue to grow with fantastic companies. That's the burden you bear when you have 80 partners and 300 and some odd people in the home service space. So you look at it and you go, okay, well, how do we, one, strategize? So that's the first thing that we do. Nobody really does that. In home services, we don't have competition. We have people that pretend to be our competition and miss the mark famously well. And we're blessed because we do two things that other people aren't paying attention to that matter the most. And the first one is, after we come up with a strategy, is to get the creative writing right.
Yeah.
If your writing is wrong, if your brand strategy is wrong, if you get cute and clever instead of campaignable, if you get something that really doesn't hit the mark, if you get something that doesn't resonate, then you're not going to have the impact that you want it to have, and you're not going to get the lift that you need to for the spend that you're putting into your marketing budget as a whole. So we like to control the words across all channels, right? We want to make sure that the voice is the same. And Jen, I know you and your team go into my Monday boards all the time, and you're looking at the radio ads and taking the videography and pulling those apart and doing your thing. And you're just awesome at it. You're just doing such a great job. And it's a great marriage because of that understanding of protecting the brand and the identity of the brand is job one. And then last, we buy what people don't buy well, and that's mass media. And basically, if you're buying mass media on your own, you're spending too much, you've got the frequency wrong, and you probably spread yourself too thin with lots of reach but not enough frequency. And you'd think that was a fairly easy math equation. It's funny, I had a chat with a fellow last night about it, and he's like, what's the science behind it? I'm like, well, that depends precisely on about 1,000 things in your marketplace. And it gets to the point, like when we run radio in a mid-sized city, we're looking at like the Nielsen cross-cumulative traffic reports that tells us exactly how long people listen to certain channels, at what times of day, what male or female demographics. We're looking at aggregate that is beyond a shadow of a doubt accurate based on statistical sample size. It is 70% more accurate than Google and the data and the notes that you get out of Google or Facebook. And what that tells us is we can talk to, in every single market in America, the top 215 markets, we can talk to in excess of 50% of the marketplace using traditional media, TV and radio. Not even taking into consideration streaming and OTT, we can talk to half without that. So that's staggering.
Yeah, for sure.
Nobody believes that. No one sees that because they don't listen to it themselves. And then they get one of these personal people meters, and all of a sudden they're picked up like 17 times this week that I was in the proximity of a radio station that I could hear, because that's the only thing that it measures, is something that the human
that's cool.
hears.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how you're influenced by things that you don't even know you're influenced by.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that was super insightful, but I want to bring this up. So we work with a couple Wizard of Ads clients, and there's this great thing that happens, but like it might not seem great. I don't know. But, and not all of your clients have this, but like some of them have these people who cannot help themselves on social media, but to complain about their radio commercials. And like, so one of our clients is Barker and Sons. They are out of Orange County, California. They do these incredible commercials where they almost look like reality TV. The co-owner, Brenda, is like the lead in these commercials. And there's just people who like hate her. And I want to make this really clear for everyone that's listening. There is nothing like controversial about what she's saying or what she's doing. She's a pleasant woman. She's kind. Like she's a little bit silly. Like, but there's nothing like, but like people have such strong opinions about it. Like, how do you do that? And I know that's the point, but like, that's why I feel like there's a little bit of magic involved, but I think there's strategy.
It's an astounding amount of both, Jen. When you study the things that we study, the classes that you get are just the surface of what we do. You get into the partnership, and we're getting into the deep psychology, biology, neuroscience of what we're doing from a device, tool, and tactics standpoint. So the writing devices we use and the choices that we're making to position a person in a certain way, or a company, or a mascot, or a foil, or any of these other different tools that we can use to elicit emotion.
Right.
Think of it, I use this analogy a lot, and I continue to say this analogy to really drive it home for people, because it's that important. You can have a brick, which is your ad, your truck wrap, your billboard, your website, your Google ranking and map pack, and you could take it into a lot out by your house that you're walking by. It's got the chain link fence and John and Muffy and and their wife, Sally, are walking by it in the evening, and they take the brick and they chuck it back into the lot, never to be seen again, right? It's like in the brain, out of the brain, 7-second memory, doom scrolling. We've heard of all this stuff. Well, that's not going to get you anywhere in marketing. You're just spending money and it's a sunk cost. You're just wasting cash. It may or may not get you a result, and most people get just enough result that they can continue doing it on this channel versus that channel, right?
Yeah.
The second strategy is you spend a bunch of money, right? You're bigger, you have more money, so you're spending more money, and you bring a wheelbarrow of bricks and you dump it right in the front of the lot, just past the chain link fence, but before the tall grass, right? That's in that sketchy ass lot that's down by your house. And on that same evening walk, you and Muffy and Sally are walking by, and you notice the pile of bricks, and you're like, there's bricks there. That's great. That's maybe they're going to do something at some point in time in their life. But it just is accumulation of bricks at that point in time. The third option is that you can go to that same lot, and all of those bricks start to get put into a foundation. The most important part of that foundation is that they're taking mortar, and they're swiping on a bunch of mortar onto the bricks, and they're stacking the bricks up so they can get a building.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of those bricks is an impression of your business. And some of the bricks matter, and some of the bricks don't. But the building starts to take real estate up in the back of your brain. You're like, there's something happening there. Now, the grass is tall, right? So you're not really seeing the foundation at first. You're just seeing that something's going on. And then the foundation gets a little bit past the grass, and you're like, Sally, Muffy, look, they're building something there. It looks like it's going to be really nice. And you take note, right? And then you build the McMansion that you wanted to build, and people go, wow, that's a beautiful piece of real estate. I might want to go visit that someday, right? And that's a brand. That's them having a feeling about it. Now, some people are going to walk by that house and they're going to go, oh, that's disgusting. That modern mid-century is just not my style, right?
Yeah.
And some people are going to walk by it and they're going to go, oh, that's just the most beautiful house in the whole wide world. I really, really want to be a part of that someday. I can't wait to go visit the neighbors when they move in. And the question is, when they decide to knock on your door, right, which is Google, right, or the Val pack that you're in, or the direct mailer that you just sent them, or the radio ad that they heard, and they knock on the door and you open up and you invite them in and they step over your threshold. Well, now they're in your place. Is the inside of your house as impressive as the outside of it? Does it match? Does it feel right? And does it evoke a feeling of them wanting to spend more time with you to do the thing? Well, it's your brand. You're building the real estate up in the back of their brain, and then you're impressing them or not when you get the chance to do the thing. And they're either going to choose to come back and be your next best friends, or never see you again, right? So that is the analogy. That is the metaphor of your brand. And when you really think about what you're trying to do is, I have these 3 bricks. What kind of bricks am I going to bring to the table to get a person to show up at my door? Well, the first thing that has to happen is that something has to break in their house, in home services. And then the next thing that has to happen is the guy that they already have has to let them down. Now, with an awful lot of companies, there's an awful lot of businesses out there that have been great and aren't anymore because of changes in ownership or whatever the case might be. And it's not the same as it was back when Bob and Sally owned it. It just doesn't feel the same anymore, and it's getting too expensive, and it's getting a little bit too pretentious or a little too pushy, and all of the things that happen in changing cultures within businesses. Well, that gives you an opportunity, right? And you can either make a customer laugh, you can make them cry or endeared, or you can make them angry. Not at you, but at the injustices of the world and of your category.
Yeah.
And your job isn't to be the best solution, it's to make their situation a little less shitty.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that, most people don't get that. One of the guys I talked to last week, he's like, yeah, we're really big on selling these really nice systems, and we're like having a hard time selling anything right now. I said, yeah, but you get off on selling a nice system when the customer really gets off on spending the least amount on buying a new system that does the job that makes you go away. And this week, not 7 days later, they've not only recovered a number of lost opportunities, but have gotten back to their original conversions on unit sales because they've made the realization that we need to play the game being played, not the game that we want to play.
Right. That makes sense, especially right now.
Especially right now. It's the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. You know the difference? So let's tell the argument.
Others how you want to be treated, or treat others how they want to be treated.
That's exactly it. So the golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done unto, right? I'll treat people the way I want to be treated, right? Great idea, not great in practice, right? The platinum rule, do unto others as others want to be done unto, right? Now I just use fancy words to make myself look smart. But
Well, it's so
uh,
bad. It feels like it goes with it.
it's a rule. You're not allowed to call yourself a wise ard, which is, they say like it's wise man. I think it's more like wise ass, but Wizard of Ads. Yeah. So the idea is we have to play the game being played. We have to dance to the music being played. We have to, if we're going to take the lead, we can't step on toes. And
Mhm.
there are ways to do that in not only the way that you deliver your product, your price, your protection, the warranties that you have, that's the services that you offer. You can package those up differently than what the industry has been telling you to package them up for the last 10 years for this huge race to overconsumption or cannibalized pulled forward sales. And that has an effect. Will there still be people that need air conditioning replaced? Yes. But at the end of the day, they have no money. If they can't get approved on credit, even though they have good credit, they just have maxed out credit. We have to play a different game,
Right.
Because the money's still there and the need is still there, right? We are an essential service.
Yeah, I love that. So there was something that you brought up before we started recording about, I want to call it an issue you have with marketers, but I don't know if that's the most PC way to say it, but I want to hear what you.
I've never been PC. That's, I'm always on the edge of getting canceled. So here's the truth of it. Price of clarity is to offend somebody, right?
Was that Dan Kennedy that said if you're not pissing people off, then you're not doing your job? That's what I always tell my clients, and we have a video that goes viral and all their comments are like not nice to them. I'm like, it's okay. We got attention.
That's it. And look, what we've discovered over the last 35, 40 years of doing this is understanding that for everyone who's a minger and a whinger, there's 20,000 people that adore you. You just haven't met
Right.
them yet because they haven't had a thing that broke and a guy that let them down.
Mhm.
Right. So there is the ability to ruin your reputation, but
Right.
is
That's totally different. Like, we don't want to, like, yeah, we don't want to do something that puts you in bad light, but getting negative attention isn't always a bad thing.
Our best clients love when customers call in for a complaint because what they do is they complain and we're like, oh, yeah, that's crazy. We'll tell the marketing department that they're a bunch of jerks and that they, of course, tell us and we all high five. And then they go, hey, can we get your air conditioner repaired? You look at your hot water tank. 30% of the time, those people convert on the call.
That's
30%.
so funny. Yeah.
So don't take it as they're not saying, I don't want to deal with you. They're saying, I don't like your ad.
Right.
But guess what
Yeah.
your ad did? And we love that. Like we have people who have literal Reddit campaigns about them.
Yeah.
They talk about and the Colair cinematic universe. Like we have built a thing at Colair down in Mission, Texas, and they're brilliant at it. And the owners is one of the actors, as is one of the actors who everyone thinks is a technician down at Colair doing the goofy things that they do. And bless their souls, they buy in and believe the story. They really think this really happens in a real world scenario. And
Yeah.
bless them, understand the majority of the universe that you're dealing with is not sophisticated. They believe the stories you're telling, right?
Right.
They're annoyed how often they hear them, right? And the thing is, they can't stop thinking about you and they can recite back 20 things about the ads that you have sent out.
Right.
We have one campaign where we literally do a new sea shanty every single ad. 12 sea shanties a year are done by this coastal air conditioning company. Sea shanties are obvious, but everyone is singing the solution of the pain that we raise up at the front of the ad. Well, that's fun, right? And people will call about the lyrics because they can't get them out of their head and their kids in the back seat sing about how the, mom farted. And all of a sudden you get the complaint and then you say, oh, I'm so sorry we offended you about saying the word fart. She's like, oh, I wasn't offended, but Banky won't stop talking about it. And
That's so funny.
who are they going to use when they need an air conditioner? When they need air conditioner repaired? Who are they going to think of? Who are they going to recommend? They've never used you, but they'll recommend you, and you don't even know that it did.
I know.
Yeah, well, it's the one that sticks in their brain. They go, oh, the guys at Captain Cool will do it, and they're super fun, and I called them one, and then they'll tell the story about fart, and then everyone will laugh, and that's a moment, right?
Yeah.
All of that beautiful magic that happens. So there's the magic. How did we do it? By strategically embedding certain things along the way, from whistles to the actual sea shanty jingle piece is the same every time. So the music bed is the same. Caption that we use, the name that we picked, the guy that we put on the side of the truck and had Dan Antonelli create it for us. All of these things are wonderful, wonderful ways to align everything, which is a big piece of the strategy. After we figured out how to do the strategy, we're not done. Good Lord. Words are everything. You need to keep saying them. Funny thing about words. And then you have to align those words on the website and the social media and the emails and the on hold message. We have people who get their on hold messages done, and it's like 4 to 10 minutes that will get recorded by the actors.
Yeah.
It's just this nonsensical ramblings of crazy things that are happening. People will literally say, no, put me back on hold. I want to see what happens.
It's funny.
It's hilarious. So it's weird how it all works. It's not
Yeah.
supposed to work this way. What we're supposed to do is write an ad that sounds like an ad and be completely invisible to all of the other ads against it on either side of it, and for you to magically somehow get customers to give a crap about you. Well, if that's what you want, go get some of the other companies who are going to do a terrible job, produce content for the sake of content. That's exactly why you stand out in the social media space, because you're absolutely putting out cheeky, irreverent content that's rattling the chains a bit, because you realize social media is about entertainment and being social. It's not about showing people how fancy your trench is.
Yeah, people don't care about plumbing and air conditioning on social media. It's just not what they're there to look at.
We actually designed an entire campaign around that for a client. And it was an homage to making fun of the nonsense that you see on social media with the guys who are just so damn proud of their trench that they just dug for a customer and take a picture of it to let people
That's
know
funny.
that they're going to ruin their emotional life as they rip up their lawn and
I know.
prize.
Not only the lawn thing, but like I tell my team not to post trenches because one time we posted a trench like 4 years ago and it wasn't up to OSHA standards. And so now I'm like, no trenches are up to OSHA standards. Don't post any holes in the ground, please.
Has seen an OSHA approved trench. No one.
No.
I know 75% of the population in plumbing doesn't even know what OSHA wants as a OSHA approved trench.
Well,
Which is
I think that's what happened. We got in the plumbing area of TikTok and people were like, I'm going to call OSHA on you. I was like, delete. That never existed. And never again. That's how you learn. I was traumatized. Okay, there is one thing I definitely want to be sure that we talk about, and it's because early on in my entrepreneurial career, I read Chris Voss Never Split the Difference, which is a book that is always recommended to entrepreneurs because sales is just part of your job when you own your own company, and that's kind of what the book is. But it was also just like such an interesting book. But then you have gone on to like kind of create a partnership with him. So just tell me more about that.
Yeah, Chris and I have come to become friends, and we're writing a book together. It's Never Split the Difference for HVAC and plumbing.
I love that. How freaking cool is that? Look at you.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, I gotta say, like, I'm holding back my excitement. It's all just below camera right now. It is super exciting. Chris is an astounding human being. Chris has developed something that is just so astoundingly beneficial to the home service space. It's beneficial to a bunch of spaces, automotive and real estate. He's just gone on to connect with a friend of ours, Renata Reed. She's going to be talking about real estate and
Nice.
Never Split the Difference in real estate. So we're going to see a series of these different books coming out. And I'm the very first of Chris's endeavors in that market.
Cool. You should be proud. Congratulations. That's awesome.
It was an endeavor. I started doing that work in 2017, right? So the overnight success is only 8 years old. So, and 30 years before that, and figuring out how to get to that point,
Right.
2015 was a big transition point for me. So I'd spent a lot of time doing sales training and was very good at it in the in automotive space and in the furniture space, and invited to speak and work around the world doing that, and had done very well in that world. But it was very transactional. Again, it was a lot of grindy stuff. So blending what I've learned from Wizard of Ads and Roy specifically, and then going and doing my own self-research and really delving into it in the academic way that it needed to be done, not just with hope and prayer, but real study and real research and real, academic data. What it allowed me to do is really just develop some solid strategies around how to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time period, I've had the opportunity to meet people like Ken Goodrich. Ken and I are friends today. And one of the things he told me back a couple of years ago, he's like, I was really sick and tired of all those guys who were trying to sell me their 6-step, 7-step, 8-step process in sales. He's like, why can't there be 4? And I thought, that's fantastic. Challenge accepted. He had found the guy to do 4, and then the guy comes back and disappoints him with a 6-step process. And Ken sits down after launching him summarily out of his office and writes his own 4-step process. And I'm like, Ken's a badass, and he's like the real deal in this world. Of all the voices that you hear, Ken's the one that stands the highest for me, like Ron Smith, the other guy, Jim Abrams. So I said, well, if he can do 4, I can do 3, right? So I figured out my 3-step process really, really well. Then I went into how do we sell replacements, listening to all the gurus and listening to all the things, and not saying, hey, buy my thing. I don't even sell my stuff. I just give it to my clients as part of being a part of the world. And some of those clients are like, oh, dang, right? And it comes from all the things I've learned from all of the best operators around the world, to all of the best gurus, all of the people who are servicing the home service space now, listening intently, learning, and saying, yeah, but here's the thing, that in your blind spot, why don't we just get it simpler? And that built up into a series of different frameworks that fit beautifully into Chris Voss's frameworks. And when that realization was made by Chris Voss's team and the guy that connected us, it was legitimized, and we went down the path of getting a book put together a book deal put together that we'll present to the world.
So cool. When is it coming out? Do you know?
I would suspect we'll see. I actually have a meeting just after this call to talk about the first outline. We're going to go through it, and then I'm going to be getting on a call to work in my frameworks into the book framework itself. So that's literally we're on the doorstep getting next steps done.
Awesome. And you have some other projects you're working on with him?
Well, as you get to know people and hang out with them and do things, you end up getting into things. We decided that because of Chris's love for bourbon, that we should probably have a celebrity bourbon brand. So we invented the thing called The Difference. The Difference is the world's only registered trademark TM business bourbon. And that allows us to just play in a space of entrepreneurs and business owners.
Oh
And
my gosh.
and what we do is we don't sell it on shelves. We will never sell it on shelves ever in the history of shelves for two reasons. One, our bourbon is like super elite, like rich person bourbon.
Yeah.
So you get to get really delightful stuff. It is just magical bourbon that's being developed or sourced out of Bardstown with some of the most elite distillers in the world. And then the second part is that we bring it into the community, and it's a walled garden. So you end up having to apply to get in, and we'll welcome you in. But if you turn out to be an a-hole, you get invited to go away. Two of which have already been invited to go away. We're only going to have super limited runs of this stuff. So you're getting ridiculously high-end, ridiculously rare bourbon, and the opportunity to hang out with ridiculously cool people who are all kind of doing neat things in this world. They're business owners, they're investors, they're old money, they're new money, they're all types and sources. And it's just the opportunity to bring together people and bond. So even if you don't drink bourbon, we have one person who abstains, and that's completely cool with us. We love the guy, and we'll continue to love the guy, and we will even entertain the idea of developing a non-alcoholic spirit as part of the process, because there is a huge opportunity for that. It's about camaraderie. It's about the connection and the community and the tribalism, and this is all stuff that is so prolific in Wizard of Ads. So much so that most people don't know this about the Wizard of Ads, but at the exact same place, we have a vault. I mean, a vault. And inside that vault, there's over 4,000 bottles of some of the best whiskey, bourbon, rye, scotch, and spirits around the world that live in this vault. We run the number 1 and number 2 largest whiskey channels on YouTube today. And we have a class where you can learn to become an official designated, legal designation whiskey sommelier. So if you like, so to say that it's in my world, about the time this podcast comes out, August, September, we're seeing something that's being distilled right now. It's a bourbon called the Dreamer. Funny thing about the Dreamer is that it's a beautiful base liquid, and in that base liquid, they're going to take wood and soak that wood. This is a very common practice to get the finishing process done. Well, this wood comes from the original shack where Walt Disney invented
Oh my gosh.
Disney World.
So cool.
You will literally be drinking the spirit of Walt Disney in your spirits of the business bourbon called the Dreamer. To say that it is an outstandingly expensive bottle of bourbon is a small understatement. You can only get access to if you're part of the shareholder society. Shareholder society, obviously, because you never split the difference. You always share.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we are at the end here, and I could probably still keep talking for, I know you can, Ryan. You are a talker and you're great at it. Storyteller. I could definitely keep listening for a long time. But here at the Key to Growth podcast, we end with the same question for everyone. So the question is, what is the key to growth?
The key to growth for me is understanding that your brand is your culture and your culture is your brand, and that people won't follow you if you don't have a North Star. And if you don't have a North Star, you can't navigate. And if you can't navigate, you can't go anywhere. And people aren't going to follow you if you're not going anywhere. So to be a leader, a market leader, a leader in your business, your community, and your family, you have to have a North Star. You have to stand for something. You have to be willing to take sacrifice and struggle and, frankly, self-imposed consequences when it's hard for you at the benefit of others. And when you do that, you're going to have a significant following of people that stand for what you stand for.
I love that. So if people wanted to find you online or wherever, where should they look?
Yeah, all my socials are Wizard Ryan Chute, and you can certainly find me at ryanchute.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. This has been incredible.